So the Mortal Kombat 1 beta has concluded, and in this video we're going to go over some of the good, the bad, and some of the things that I think might need to be changed. Also, I'm going to discuss what I think the meta will be in the game moving forward. So my overall impressions with the beta, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time playing it. I like a lot of what NRS is doing. I played mostly Sub-Zero and Li Mei, and both characters were really fun and very different from one another. I liked Li Mei. Her zoning was okay. She had some cool things with the little lantern that goes up above her head. You're able to convert into a lot of combos and some interesting setups with that. Also with Sub-Zero, he was able to control space with the clone. He was able to go in and do some things up close, mix up, utilize the Kano cameo in order to do that. It was just a lot of fun. One of the things that I think is really good about the game is that meter management is something that is emphasized. So you can utilize your meter to extend combos, or you can use it really to break her. If you break her, you need both your cameo to be available and you need all 3 bars of meter. So you're not going to be able to really extend your combos and do big damage while also saving for a breaker. So it kind of makes you form a choice in your head as to how you're going to tackle each matchup. I think this is going to be big moving forward in the game, where against certain characters that have really big damaging combos, you may want to save that meter and use it for a breaker, versus other characters that maybe are zoners and don't have as much damage potential. You might want to utilize your meter in order to both get in as well as inflict as much damage as possible to counteract all the zoning that you had to go through while getting in against the character. So I think that's really going to play into the meta quite a bit. I love the fact that there's breakers and not breakaway. Breakaway was just terrible. It was awful in Mortal Kombat 11, but you know, we're back. We're back with the breaker, and I'm here for it. Also, you can break fatal blows. So if someone goes into a fatal blow, it's not a guaranteed unbreakable combo. You can break it right on the fatal blow, and I think that's pretty cool. One thing that I don't like about fatal blows is that they're still very hard to punish. There's a ton of pushback. It's very wonky in the block stun. I think that they need to make it so that these fatal blows are just death on block. So if somebody blocks your fatal blow, you can just fully punish them, full combo, and that's a wrap. The connections, as far as the online goes, was very hit or miss. There were times where I was playing against someone and they had a wired connection and maybe a 53 ping, and it was kind of choppy. The character that I was playing against was kind of teleporting, moving around a little bit in an odd way, especially when people were dash blocking. It was almost like the rollback couldn't handle the dash blocking, and it made the character like glitch out. Now, this didn't happen in all matches, but in some. And it didn't matter if the ping was somewhat high or somewhat low. I think sometimes it just kind of went into a situation where the sync between the two players was off. Something that Mortal Kombat 11 seemed to handle poorly as well. And Wi-Fi was just terrible. I did accept quite a few Wi-Fi just to see how it would play, and it was very reminiscent of Mortal Kombat 11, maybe even worse at times. I think they really need to shore up this online in order to keep the game's life going. That was one of the main reasons I stopped playing Mortal Kombat 11, especially during that time there were no in-person tournaments. But now with in-person tournaments, I'll still play it even if the online's just meh, because I know that there is some light at the end of the tunnel with in-person events. So you can use online for practice, but it's kind of wonky out there, and I hope that they're able to fix that up, and I hope that they give us filters so we can search by both connection strength, type of connection, and location when you're searching. Or at the very least, like Street Fighter 6 does, you can set it to where you can view the person's connection strength and if they're on Wi-Fi or if they're wired. And you can choose to play them or not based off of that. You can't see their record, you can't see their name, you can't see who it is, but you can just see those two things. Even if they did that, I would be all for that. I think the movement was good, so you're able to dash block quite effectively. The movement for, say, Johnny Cage is much better than, say, the movement for Li Mei. Right, so each character is going to have their different type of dash blocking and the speed by which they're able to do that. And for Johnny, that fits because he's trying to rush down, he's trying to get in. Li Mei, more of a neutral character, with punishing character. And, you know, I guess that kind of fits for that. I think, though, with the ability to dash block, it's really going to tone down zoning in the game. So keep that in mind if you plan on maining a zoning character. There's probably going to be instances where you're going to play against characters that can move really, really fast and are going to be really tough to keep out. I did notice also that there were a good amount of input errors while I was playing. And the game is storing inputs for a long time, longer than normal. Even when I put the inputs on short, so the input timing I put to short, it still was holding my inputs for way longer than I really wanted them to. For instance, I'll give you an example. If I'm moving back and forth in neutral and I move back and then I hold back for maybe a second and I hit forward and circle for Li Mei. That's our main neutral tool, is that forward 4. When I do that, a lot of times the special would come out. And I think that's a bit of an issue. And it seems as though when a character has their main offensive tool attached to the same button as a special move and a back forward, this is going to be a problem. So keep that in mind as well. I also noticed that the cameos are still eating button presses. So for instance, with Sub-Zero, when I would go back and R1 for my cameo and then 3-4, so hold back, R1, 3-4, I do that very quick. It's not at the same time, but it's very close. So R1 comes first and then 3-4 while I'm holding back. And it would eat the 3 and then the 4 would just come out, so you just get sweep. So in many instances, if you hit the button right when you hit the cameo, it eats the button input. I think that's something that they should probably look at. There's also a few bugs where the character gets lost in the background or foreground of the map, and like the one character will look real big and the other one looks small because one's in the background, one's in the foreground. It's almost like when someone goes for a grab and then your character goes to the background and then the cameo comes out, and then it's almost like that character just stays there. Or vice versa, like maybe your character goes into the foreground and they stay there. So I'm sure that they're aware of that. I've seen that not only in this beta, but also in the Evo build. People were recording it and they showed that. And someone said that they talked to Derek about it that I saw on Twitter, and he said he knew about it and it was fixed for the release. But just something to let you know that it is there. Also, Kenji still has his puppet infinite. It's not really an infinite, but it's just very long that the puppet is active. And you're able to, even on block, deplete someone's health down probably about 30-40% just with chip damage, and it really is difficult to get out of. You may think, oh, well, just armor, right? You just armor out of it. Well, he can use the puppet to hit you and block your armor move at the same time. So in that instance, it's just basically like death. You're just in a situation where you either are going to get hit or you're going to take all the chip damage. What I was doing to get out of it, because I started armoring and people were just blocking and then punishing me, I was letting myself get hit and then breakering. So that's the way I was getting out of it. And it seemed to work out pretty well. I was doing well against most Kenshis with that type of strategy if I did get caught in that. So keep that in mind. So I also like the wake up system much better. So the wake up system in this game, it basically revolves around your armor move. You have two different types of get ups. You have a regular delay and a no delay. So there's no like in between delay. So you only have two different timings of which your opponent's going to be getting up off of the ground, which I like. And you also have an instance where you can use armor to break through any type of move that someone is trying to put you in as you get up off of the ground. And I like that. The one thing that's going to be kind of crazy, which I did discuss in my original video to my review to the stress test, and I saw more of this with the beta as people are learning the game. An issue that I thought would be prominent, which is definitely, because I've seen it in this build, people going into strings that are like barely negative. So say I utilize a string that's like -4, right? And it's now your turn. I use my armor move with a cameo to go through your turn, and not only do I go through your turn, but I use my cameo to extend a combo with armor. Reminds me very much of MKX in that respect. If you think back to, say, Kotal Khan, right? His down back meter burn 1. He launched you, and in the beginning he had armor on that. So he would go through his string, he'd be like -4, boom, go to armor. He would just steal his turn back and get like 40% damage or 30% damage off of that. And that's definitely in this game. And it's one of the things that they actually stripped and took away from Mortal Kombat X. So I'm curious if they're just going to let that rock. It looks like they're going to, but just be aware that is in the game. Not something I'm a big fan of, but it's something we're going to have to adapt to. So my prediction on the meta for the game as of this point, I mean, obviously things can change. We only have a few characters and a few cameos, but I think that this game is going to be a much more rush down, set play type of game. You're going to knock your opponent down. You're going to use your cameos for setups and mix, and it's going to be a lot of set play. And I think that's the way this game is going to work. I don't think zoning is going to be very strong in this game, but I could be wrong. There may be cameos and characters that have crazy zoning that we haven't seen yet. As of now, I would say that the best zoner that we've seen is Liu Kang. And his zoning's pretty good, don't get me wrong. But the one thing that I noticed, like with Frost cameo, you can throw one bad projectile and your opponent can have Frost come out on the screen and eat that projectile and freeze you from literally full screen, right? So one bad projectile as a zoner and you're eating 40% with your opponent right next to you. And in that type of situation, zoning, I just don't think is going to be the way to play this game. Now, again, I might be wrong, right? Because there may be characters that come out that have zoning beyond our comprehension with cameo combinations that make it so it's just absolutely ridiculous to try to get in. We did just see Motaro, and he has like the reflection and some other things that he has going on. There may be some defensive cameos, we'll see. But the way that I see this game being played is rush down, set play, some good neutral. I think like the mid-screen game is going to be good in this title. But then once you knock that person down, it's going to be set play, mix, and you're just going to have to eat it. And you're going to have to try to guess to get out of that situation, and that's the way it's going to be. Also, I think that the ambush cameo versus the summon cameo, ambushes, they're going to be the top. Like the characters that have the best ambush cameos, or I should say the cameos that have the best ambush attacks, they're probably going to be the top cameos in the game. And I think that, you know, in most games like this with assists, there's going to be certain assists or cameos that are just top. And you're going to be able to use those with many different characters. And I also feel like these cameos are going to be able to mask weaknesses of characters, and it's going to expand the number of characters that you can use at a competitive level. But again, we'll see. So what did you think of the beta? Leave it down in the comment section below. I definitely would be excited to hear your thoughts and what your experience was like with the game. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and don't forget to click the bell so you get updated whenever I post new content. As always, it's Gleez signing out. Thanks for checking in and continue to game strong.